Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show.
Welcome in, Matt Bernier Show here on DRF Live, Friday, August the 12th, 2016. I'm Matt Bernier. You can follow along on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. Coming to you live from the Daily Racing Forum studio here, Midtown Manhattan. I hope wherever you are, it's not nearly as hot as it is here, because this is miserable. I'm not a scientist or a meteorologist, but I'm pretty sure this is on par with the same temperature as the surface of the sun. So you go outside and you just immediately sweat. Wherever you are, hopefully it's a little bit nicer and a little bit more convenient as far as temperature is concerned. If you're watching on DRF Live, thank you for doing so. If you're listening to podcast version, we have YouTube, SoundCloud, DRF.com. We have iTunes. We have all sorts of ways for you to check us out. And we do this thing every Friday. More often than not, it's a half hour during the summer, but maybe we'll stretch out to an hour depending on time and whatever's going on. Half hour for today's show, and a lot is going to be revolving around racing coming up over the next day or two. Predominantly Arlington Park in Chicago, Saratoga, upstate New York, as well as Del Mar in Southern California. But the overriding sort of elephant in the room is the weather forecast, talking about the heat and how miserable it is here. There's a high likelihood that we're going to be dealing with some weather, some wet weather in Chicago as well as upstate in Saratoga. We don't have to worry about Del Mar. They're not going to have any issues. But knowing that Arlington Park has their big sort of day, this is their featured event, or their featured day anyway, of racing for their Arlington Park meeting, all the races, the majority of them are on the turf. And it's disappointing knowing that it seems like going into today, from now until midnight Eastern, I believe it's midnight Eastern, maybe midnight Central Time, but you've got a flash flood watch already sort of in play for the rest of this day today. Overnight tonight, heavy rain, 80% chance of it. Tomorrow looks like it's not nearly as likely that it's going to rain, about 30% chance of thunderstorms. But what I'm trying to get at is it sounds like if the rain does show up, we're going to be dealing with not just a little bit, but enough to make this a rather boggy surface, which can change these races considerably, because some of these horses, they come here from Europe, particularly because they want firm going. They don't like having to deal with the sort of yielding or the softer ground over in Europe. Now, for a race like the Beverly D or the Arlington Million or the Secretariat, these horses are quality no matter what, so they're probably going to be able to run on anything. But the idea is, this may not be ideally what some people wanted or they had envisioned when they came over here, or they were pointing toward this event or these events. So it looks like it could be a bit of a bog in Chicago. Looks like it could be a bit of a bog upstate at Saratoga, where today it looks like 50-50 shot. Now look, if you've ever been to Saratoga Springs, you're familiar with upstate New York, Lake George area, this time of year, it's about a 50-50 shot of heavy rain any day. It's one of those things. Saratoga, notorious for those big pop-up thunderstorms that can come ripping through. 50-50 shot today, and if they do come, it's probably going to be pretty heavy and pretty substantial, so that can kind of play into tomorrow. Maybe not so much for the dirt track, but the turf course is, again, the focus tomorrow up at Saratoga. Not only, we'll talk about the two-year-olds in a minute, but the four-star Dave has been upgraded to a grade 1, and tomorrow's going to be the first time it is a grade 1, and it could be contested over yielding ground. Tomorrow's forecast up at Saratoga, 60% chance of heavy rain and thunderstorms. So the overriding sort of feel or factor for these races this weekend coming up tomorrow, both in Chicago and here upstate, it looks like we could be dealing with some less than ideal situations as far as the track conditions are concerned. So it'll obviously play into the favor of some horses that like a little bit more given the ground, and it could compromise some of these that prefer a little bit firmer. As far as the overall racing is concerned and year-long things, you know, we've been talking about Beholder recently in California Chrome, Frosted with his brilliant performance in the Whitney. I don't think there's going to be really any year-end ramifications this weekend, maybe with the exception of the two-year-olds, and we'll talk about two of the two-year-old races here when we go into the handicapping portion of the show today. You've got the Best Pal down at Del Mar in Southern California, where it's going to be fascinating to see. It's a short field, but it's a select field. It's a very good field. I've got to make mention immediately that the two-year-olds, boys and girls so far this year, they really look like they're the real deal. They all are throwing up giant speed figures on any sort of figure that you want to use, whether it's a buyer or it's something else. It seems like all these horses can run, which is a nice change compared to the two-year-olds we had last year, maybe with the exception of a Songbird. But we didn't have any of those big gaudy numbers. We've got big gaudy numbers already, and it's pretty early in the season still, considering we're just not even midway through August. So the Best Pal is going to be going on for the boys in Southern California at Del Mar. That'll be an interesting race that we'll dive into. And also up at Saratoga, the sort of, I don't want to say it's the co-featured event, because it is a step below or a notch below the four-star Dave. But the ninth race tomorrow is the Adirondack. It's for the fillies, 6.5 furlongs on the main track. Again, maybe contested over sloppy going, or less than fast going, we should say. But again, you've got a lot of quality in that field. It's going to be fascinating to see how all these girls shake down. And again, I don't think we're going to have any sort of horse of the year ramifications or even, older male, older female, anything like that. But I do think maybe this weekend starts to get us down that road, starting to think about who ultimately is going to take home champion 2-year-old male and champion 2-year-old female at the end of the year as far as the awards are concerned. And clearly everyone is trying to get to the Breeders' Cup. So things are going to start happening. Races are going to start coming together that look like they could have year-end ramifications. And I think for the 2-year-olds, it'll start tomorrow afternoon. Both coasts, New York and Southern California. When we come back here on the Matt Bernier Show, before we dive into all those great races, we've got 6 that we're going to handicap for you. We're going to go back and look at 2 from last weekend. One of them, the West Virginia Derby. The other one, the La Jolla from Del Mar. Stay with us, the Matt Bernier Show.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
Breeders' Cup Classic. Private Zone has run a 45 flat half mile and has opened up 2.5 lengths. Private Zone's got the lead close to home and he's all by himself. Private Zone wins the 4 gold.
.1207 East Coast, 907 West Coast, the Matt Bernier Show on DRF Live. If you're watching on DRF Live, thank you for doing so. YouTube, SoundCloud, DRF.com, iTunes, all sorts of ways if you want to listen to the podcast version. Let's take a quick sort of rewind and look back at 2 races that we went over last weekend here on the show. You had the West Virginia Derby, you had the La Jolla. If you want to go through all the in-depth analysis as far as the recap is concerned, we obviously have those videos available, video.drf.com in the weekend wrap segments. But I went through, gave you some odds who I thought was a good sort of contender or someone that I wanted to take a shot against. In the West Virginia Derby, I particularly wanted to try to beat Cupid. Now this race, as we found out live during the show, there were some pretty major scratches that affected the overall quality of the field. But at the end of the day, Cupid put on a bit of a show, and let's take him from the top of the lane.
Cupid well off the track as they come for home. Bejarano has done his homework. Let's see what he does in the stretch run. It's Cupid by 3. What everybody wants is on the inside from name changer Pinsun. Sudden breaking news is right down the outside, but it's Cupid well clear, and it's Cupid's West Virginia Derby. Cupid all the way, wins by 5.
Great call, and I believe it was Peter Berry on the call, acknowledging the fact that Bejarano recognized that the inside for 2 years in a row, and I said 2 years in a row, apparently we had some people tweet into us on DRF Live Saturday that it just seems like for the entire meeting, the inside at Mountaineer Park is just death. It's not where you want to be. Bejarano clearly recognized that and knew that it's time. We got to make a bit of a change if we want to go on with this thing. He broke, particularly because he was down on the inside, broke, got this horse out into the clear. It helped when no distortion, didn't have the cleanest of starts, and didn't kind of push Cupid along at all or make him have to commit to anything. Angled him out 5 path in the first turn, 5-6 path backside. You saw Cupid get out a little bit on the far turn, turning for home. I think that's a combination of Bejarano wanted him out there, but I don't know if he wanted to be out 10-12 path down the center of the track. I think that was Cupid being a bit of a goofball, being a bit of a dummy, as the Tappets are known to be, and kind of just drifting and taking the rider out into the middle of the track. Don't know what you want to do with the effort going forward. I made him 6-1. That was before the scratches. I never was going to be playing him at 3-2. I told you guys I wanted to take a shot against him in that spot from pick 4 standpoint as well as a win standpoint. And look, the best horse was, going into it, he was the best horse. He had the tactical advantage, and then he got a great ride from Bejarano. One of those scenarios, I didn't have $1 on the race, but it was a situation where, all right, I was wrong. I want to take a shot against a horse that I thought was going to take a lot of money. He did. He went out there, proved to be far superior to everyone else, even on a track that was a little bit on the quirky side. Cupid gets the job done at 3-2 with Bejarano in the irons. Let's move on to the La Jolla. We're going into it. I thought it was a fascinating race. You could have gone 15 different ways. The concern was, how is this race going to shake down from a pace standpoint? It looked like there would be a lively pace signed on. Mr. Rory was in there. You had a couple other ones, but Free Rose ultimately got very, very brave. Let's take it from the top.
Down the centre of the track, Moonlight Drive chases them, Mr. Rory between them, Monster B on the outside coming with a run, and here's Lucky Brian. Lucky Brian now exploding, one from the inside, Free Rose the leader, Lucky Brian coming fast, Moonlight Drive on the outside, Free Rose in a shocker, Free Rose went all the way, Free Rose to beat Lucky Brian.
Trevor Denman obviously on the call. Free Rolls, Richard Baltus. This horse got very brave, ran a huge race, got a big figure again, no matter how you want to look at it. Took heat throughout, went on, finished like a good thing. I pegged this one at 19-1. I'm not ashamed to say that. I didn't think it was a likely result, and clearly the public didn't either. I believe this horse was north of 24, 25-1. So, look, a huge effort, big effort, and I didn't think there was much of an excuse for some of the other runners, maybe with the exception of the fact that it seems like last weekend particularly, and going forward, the turf course at Del Mar seems to be a little bit on the speed-friendly side. I don't want to call it just an absolute, speed send mission, you get to the front and you win, but it certainly helps to be forwardly placed, as it does in all sorts of racing in Southern California, turf or dirt. So, big race right there from Free Rose. I really liked Abaddon, and he went off at a very fair price, and I bet him. And it just didn't shake down. Where it was a combination of, one, the horse was just never looked like he was going to run a step, and sometimes it happens, you're just going to be wrong. And two, maybe the track did play against him a little bit, but that's not an excuse. He didn't run really at all. He didn't pick his feet up. So a scenario where, wrong again. 2 races for me. I wanted to take shots against a couple horses and wanted to support 1 or 2 of them. Nothing worked out, no dice. Let's hope that this week is different. We've got 6 races. Again, in a little bit of an abbreviated review segment right there. We only had 2 races. When we come back after the break, we are diving in deep. The first segment, we're going to go through 3 races. They're all from Arlington Park. Races 7, 8, and 9. The Secretariat, the Beverly D, the Arlington Million. Stay with us.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with 1 click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
Breeders' Cup Classic. Private Zone has run a 45 flat half mile and has opened up 2.5 lengths. Private Zone's got the lead close to home and he's all by himself. Private Zone wins the Forgo.
1214 East, 914 West, the Matt Bernier Show here on DRF Live. Let's dive into it. We've got all sorts of stakes action across the country Saturday afternoon. This segment right here is going to be specifically geared toward Arlington Park, where they've got obviously all sorts of graded stakes action. We're going to key in on 3 of the races. Let's start off with race number 7. It's a grade 1 for 3-year-olds. Mile and a quarter on the turf. It is the Secretariat, the 40th running of it. $450,000 is the purse. Let's take a look at the field for those of you that are new to the show as far as the visuals are concerned. Normally when you see our graphics during the previews or the race of the day videos, the odds, if they're up there, those are going to be morning line odds. Those are my odds, not the morning line odds. That's what I think indicates fair value on some of these runners. It's a fascinating race. You can look at the nuts and bolts handicapping of it. Already up there, the stakes preview with Dan Illman and Mike Beer. But my 2 cents, and we'll be going over these races on DRF Live tomorrow starting at 4 Eastern. I think this is a fascinating race. You can go a couple different ways. And the reason I say it's fascinating, in my opinion, and I don't mean this to be negative or rude or disrespectful, I don't think these horses are very good. Beach Patrol has shown in the past that he has glimmers and glimpses of possibly being a top-level horse. The problem is he's yet to win a stakes race, and although he's run fast races, he's also thrown in a couple clunkers, most notably the Penn Mile. I don't know what happened that day. He came back in the Belmont Derby. He didn't have the cleans to trips. I believe we've got that. As we're going to take a look at it right now. You're going to see he's in those sort of tealish, lime blue silks, whatever you want to call that color. He's going to dive down to the inside. Javier had him in a tough spot throughout, simply because this horse seemed to get lit up early on. He got pinched, and you see him. He's down in between horses right now. Can't really get through. Finally finds a seam and accelerates. Finishes a decent enough third. I thought it was a fine effort, but still one of those things at a short price. Do you really want to take a price on a horse that you're not completely convinced, one, he can stay out of his own way? Because, again, Javier really did everything he could. Now, I understand maybe you want to poke some holes in the ride and down the backside at that point. There was nothing else he could do. But early on, he tried to get him forwardly placed. He got pinched off. It was a tough position. But Javier then dove back in between horses. It was a tough spot. Again, you can't be critical of Javier. He really doesn't do anything wrong. But my grander point is, do you want to take a short price on a horse that, although he may be the best horse in the race or the most talented, isn't necessarily the most trustworthy? I surely don't. I think he's the most likely winner, but let's take a look at who I think is a live long shot, and this is a true long shot. This horse is very likely to be the longest shot on the board, if not second longest. The 5 Cordon goes out for Pavel Vashchenko. Carlos Marquez, you look at this horse, Vashchenko does very good, or he has done very well anyway thus far at the meeting, clipping off about 20%. This horse's most recent start just broke his maiden. Only 2-time starter in his career. Going to be his first time, obviously, against graded stakes competition or any sort of stakes competition. But I love the way that, you know what, he finally got in between. When he split horses, he finished like a pretty good thing. Now, again, he was beating maidens, beating horses that have never won a race before, but I don't really trust anyone else in this field. American Patriots run some good races. Hated that he never changed leads in the most recent race, or he changed very, very late. Oscar nominated. People know him because he ran the Kentucky Derby, even though he shouldn't have. His most recent start was okay. Long Island Sound's going to take money for Aidan O'Brien. I didn't think he had any sort of an excuse. Thought he was just one pace throughout in that most recent start in the Belmont Derby. So I think the most likely winner of the race is certainly Beach Patrol. But I think a live long shot, one that I'm looking forward to taking, a small bet. It won't be a huge bet, but a little wager. The 5 Cordon going out for Vashchenko and Marquez. 30-1 on the line. I made him 13-1. Let's move on to race number 8 Saturday afternoon at Arlington Park. It's the Grade 1 Beverly D. You've got a full field in here. The purse is $700,000. Fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. As we take a look at the field, again, my odds on the right side, the idea of a value line has to total 100 points. Can't go below, can't go above. And again, most of the time your morning line, you factor in the idea of the takeout, where you've got to deal with, you know, extra 18, 20 points, whatever the takeout is, wherever you are. So my line has to add up to 100. That's why there's a lot of 99-1 shots. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or rude to anyone. You look at this field, I think the most likely winner very clearly is C. Khaleesi. We're going to take a look at her most recent start, where she just got into a world of trouble. This was in the New York Stakes, and you're going to see her. She's coming from the back right now. She's got the blue silks with the orange cap. She's inside. Jose Ortiz doesn't do much wrong at any one of these New York meetings. He probably should have just gotten her out into the clear. Right now, she just clipped heels, or almost did, in tight, on a wrong lead. She finishes with some gusto. The problem is, you can't allow a nice horse like Decida to get a head start on you like that. I think of C. Khaleesi, if you reverse the trips, put her out into the clear, I think she runs very similarly to the way Decida did in there. I think C. Khaleesi is the most likely winner. I think a live long shot, and particularly if we get that cut in the ground and that heavy rain that we're projecting for Chicago. Mary Pop is a horse. Her first start over here in North America from Mike Stidham was less than spectacular. No one is going to make the case that it was an awesome performance. But you go through and look at her past performances in Europe. She's a Group 3 winner over in France, and you go through all of her firm races have been lackluster. There really hasn't been anything that she did. You look at all the races where she's got a little bit of cut in the ground, she's run some giant races. Again, she's a Group 3 winner in France, and I understand it wasn't the strongest Group 3 in the past. The runner-up has come back to run second in 2 Group 2s after that. So I think if we can get a little bit of cut in the ground, I think Mary Pop at 30-1 on the morning line is a very interesting long shot. I made her 10-1. Let's move on to the Arlington Millions, the big one, race number 9, Saturday at Arlington Park, 1.25 miles on the turf course for 3-year-olds and up. You've got a field of 13. You can go so many different ways. I look at this race and say, at the end of the day, I think World Approval might just be the best horse. I don't know if he's going to be able to run with the European imports, but at the same time, I think he's the best right now that we have as far as these distances are concerned, not named Flintshire. I think World Approval just continues to get better bit by bit. I will say, I made him the most likely winner. I made him 4-1 on my own personal line, about a 20% chance. I don't want anything to do with him at 4-1, though, and that's where you've got to be a little bit lenient with your own value line. I think he's got a huge chance, but I don't want to bet him at that. Decorated Knight is a sneaky one, I think. He's a 4-year-old coming in for Roger Charlton. He's royally bred. You look at this horse top and bottom. He's got pedigree and spades. I wonder if he's just a sort of late developing 4-year-old that's just starting to put it together. His most recent run over there in Ireland at Leopardstown, I thought was really good. He never looked like a loser, and I understand maybe it wasn't a strong field, as evident by the rider saying he didn't think this was the greatest Group 3 of all time. I think this is a very, very interesting horse. I wonder if he's just peaking at the right time or turning into a top-quality animal. They send him over here. Jose Valdivia has been riding in fantastic form at Arlington this meet. I think he's an interesting live long shot. I pegged him at 8-1. If I can get 8, I'll probably take it on him. I think the Arlington Million is a fascinating race. I think the most likely winner is World Approval, but a bit of a live long shot I'm looking at is the 8 Decorated Knight. Down and dirty, fast. Arlington Park is out of the way. When we come back from break, 2 races from Saratoga, 1 from Del Mar. Stay with us, the Matt Bernier Show.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
They're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Private Zone has run a 45 flat half mile and has opened up 2.5 lengths. Private Zone's got the lead close to home and he's all by himself. Private Zone wins the Forgo.
1223 East, 923 now, 924 West. The Matt Bernier Show, DRF Live. Down and dirty, we are going rapid fire here with the handicapping. We've got 3 more races to go, and we got to get you ready for this weekend here on DRF Live, all in a matter of about 6 minutes, so bear with me. We're going to fly here. Race number 9, Saratoga, the Grade 2 Adirondack. It's for 2-year-old fillies, 6.5 on the main track. You look at this thing, it's a fantastic race. You can go a number of different ways. I'm not giving you a most likely winner simply because, look, I don't know who the heck's going to win this race. I think the most likely winner technically is Libby's Tail at 3-1. That's about a 25% chance, but I think anyone can win this race. I'm looking forward to Olive Branch coming back, and we're going to take a look right now at her run in the Schuylerville. This was on opening day. She ran sneaky well. She's down between horses in the White Silks. She ran so well in this spot. The way that I'm looking at it, look, she was close to a hot pace, a pace that completely collapsed. She's still going on with it. She's not thrilled, obviously, but she did a lot of running in this spot. A lot of things that she hadn't had to encounter in the past. I also look at the way this race sets up on paper. I don't know really where the speed's coming from. I know Silver Tony's going to go. Nona Mella's going to be forward, but I don't know how fast she actually is. This horse, Olive Branch, in that most recent start, I know it was 2 lengths back, but you look at Moss pace figures, she was blistering. She's just as fast, if not faster, than a horse like Silver Tony or Nona Mella. There's a part of me that wants Jose Ortiz to park just off the flank of Silver Tony. Silver Tony off this long layoff coming back from Royal Ascot. Don't know how she's going to react to it. I think Olive Branch has a huge chance. I made her a 9-2 shot from a 6-1 morning line in the Grade 2 Adirondack. Let's move to the Grade 1 4-star Dave. Could be contested over, less than firm going. It's a Grade 1 for the first time. Got a really nice field of 10. More likely than not, it'll be 9 because you're going to scratch the 8 Weekend Hideaway, who's a main track only entrant in this spot. I think you can go, again, a number of ways, but the way that I'm looking at this race is saying, not that I love one horse in particular, but I just really want to play against Tourist. Tourist is very arguably the most talented horse in the race. Thought Mike Watchmaker, DRF National Handicapper, laid out a lot of positives and a lot of reasons to like him. I think he's a vulnerable favorite at 5-2. Let's take a look at his most recent run in the Shoemaker Mile. He runs into a horse in Midnight Storm who, look, razor sharp. I'm not going to argue with that. Tourist had no excuse to not win this race. You see him still hanging on his left lead. He's going to change super, super late. He had no excuse to lose this race. And I hate to say it, but I feel like that's been the MO with this horse. He's yet to win a graded stake. His most recent and his only stakes win, or he's got 2 stakes wins, I should say, to his credit. He has the More Than Ready, that's going back to September last year at Kentucky Downs, odd course configuration. And then he won a restricted stake up at Saratoga in 2014. He just continues to cash checks. He's a nice horse, not knocking him. But from a wagering standpoint, you can have him at 5-2. I want no part of this horse. I made him 7-1. I'm playing against him again. I'm not giving you a live long shot or a most likely winner. I'm just telling you, I think a vulnerable favorite is the 6 Tourist. Maybe he'll make me look foolish, but when we come back next Friday, I'm not going to be ashamed to say if he wins, I'll take a shot against this horse every single time. Last race we're going to look at for this weekend as far as handicapping is concerned is the 8th at Del Mar, the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club. Grade 2, it's the best pal. 6.5 furlongs on the main track. It's for 2-year-olds. The boys in this spot, you've got to feel the 6. Very similar to the Adirondack. I think it's a fantastic race. I think you need to lean toward the outside if you're looking for the horses that are likely win candidates. The 4 Thirst for Life, the 5 Klimt, the 6 Big League. I got to be honest, I thought Big League was tremendous when he broke his maiden. And I know he doesn't have the highest fig as far as the buyers are concerned. He looked like the real deal for Peter Miller. I thought Arroyo just did a fantastic job. He never panicked for a minute. There was a Fox Hill horse drawn to his inside. He let that one go. Set chilly as can be. This thing drew off for fun. Klimt is drawn just to his inside. I think Klimt is a very logical contender in here. Highest last out buyer of the 75. I think there's a lot of things to like about this one, other than the fact that I think Big League just might be the real deal, particularly when you look and see there's a lot of good horses in Southern California. A lot of people are talking about Big League like he may be something. And look, from a wagering standpoint, that doesn't do me any favors. I think he may go off somewhere in the even money range. I made him 9-5. If you're looking for a live long shot, a horse to try to spice some things up. How about the 2 Rinse and Repeat? Rinse and Repeat, 2 starts back in the Oak Tree at Pleasanton race, that stakes race, had all sorts of issues. Was in tight, shuffled back, sent along from the back of the pack. Really, I thought it was a pretty good effort. Acquitted himself nicely. May not be this good, but I'm not going to sit here and say, you know what, he's a bum and he can't run with these until he proves that he can't. I think he's a nice sort of underneath horse. Don't think he's a likely win candidate, but I think Rinse and Repeat at a big number. I made him 13-1. I think he's going to be every bit of that. I think you may flirt around with him underneath. He's a nice little runner for the Redhams and Doug O'Neill. 6 races down in a matter of no time. down and dirty on the Matt Bernier Show here on this Friday, August the 12th. Got about 2 minutes. We're going to bring you through and show you what's to come tomorrow here on DRF Live starting 4 o'clock Eastern. You'll start off with Dan Hillman and Mike Beer. They'll bring you through, I believe, Del Mar race number 2. Then I'll hop in. We'll go 3 of us for the Adirondack and the Arlington Million. Then Beer will go home. And then Illman and I will bring you through the 4-Star Dave, the Pucker Up, and 6 and 7 from Del Mar, wrapping up just after 8 o'clock. We'll come back and put a nice little bow tie on it all, and we'll send you on your way. We'll also show you the preview for the best pal at some point during the day, simply because we won't be on air for it. But that's what's to come tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern, starting on DRF Live. As far as the race of the day is concerned, it's the Green Flash from Del Mar. We'll take a look at that momentarily. Also worth noting, you've got stakes action at Saratoga, as you always do every day. The Tail of the Cat Stakes, you've got one scratch that I know of at this point, Green Grotto, but fantastic race. A lot of early speed signed on in there. Should be a really fun one. Take a deep breath. This show's over. We're done. Half hour flies like that when you're having fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you watched on DRF Live, thanks for doing so. If you want the podcast version, if you want to just watch the show again, or you're one that catches up on it afterward, drf.com. It's up there. You've got SoundCloud, you've got YouTube, you've got iTunes, all sorts of ways for you to find the show. Next week, it'll probably be a similar sort of scenario where Friday we'll go 12, 12:30. The following week is going to be interesting because I'll be up at Saratoga for the Travers. I leave on Thursday, so we may be doing a show on Thursday. I don't think we'll be able to do it from Saratoga on Friday, but you'll be able to see things with myself and Mike Watchmaker. We'll be doing the Weekend Warrior from up there. We'll also be doing seminars at Ciro's Friday night and Saturday morning of the Travers. So a lot of fun things coming up ahead of us in the next few weeks. Enjoy the racing tomorrow. Hopefully the gods, the weather gods, cooperate with us and we get some good racing conditions at Arlington and New York and Southern California and whatnot. I'm Matt Bernier. If you want to follow me on Twitter, at Bernier_Matt. Without further ado, the Matt Bernier Show. We're signing off. The Formulator race of the day for Friday, the Green Flash from Del Mar.